Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, 3 new special edition pedals from BOSS. Let's get started. Today we're bringing you the first look at BOSS's brand new Waza Craft Special Edition pedals. Now these are being announced today as this video goes live, and they'll be debuted at the Summer NAMM show in Nashville in just a couple of days. We have 3 pedals in the Waza Craft line. There's the Super Overdrive, which is the SD1W, the Blues Driver, the BD2W, and the Delay, the DM2W. Now the interesting thing about the Delay is this is actually a recreation, actually a premium recreation of the original DM2 Delay that was introduced by BOSS in the late 70s. It was available up until about 1984 or so. Now all 3 of these pedals feature all-discrete analog technology, and they all have 2 modes. There's a standard mode, which recreates the original pedals, and then there's a custom mode, where the master engineers at BOSS have gone in and refined the tone, refined the components to give you absolutely premium sound from these stomp boxes. So let's check out the sound of these pedals. We'll begin with the Super Overdrive. I'm going to set the level to about 3 o'clock. We've got the drive set to about 50%, and I'll put the tone just above 50%. I'm playing through a Rivera Venus 3 combo amplifier, and this is a Gibson ES335 Larry Carlton signature model. Here's our dry tone. I've got the amp set up for a neutral coloration. There's just a little bit of breakup there, so when we push it with these overdrive pedals, we're going to get a nice fat sound. So here's our Super Overdrive in standard mode. That's our traditional Super Overdrive tone with that thick, rich mid-range. Not a lot of gain there, not a lot of fuzz on top, so it's still a pretty clean sound. Now we can push the drive all the way up. Certainly more gain there, but still not a fuzzy sound, and it still has that articulation. You can hear the pick attack at the beginning of each note. Now I'm going to turn the gain back to about 50%, and we'll switch over to the custom mode. You can hear that's a fatter sound, a little bit more girth in the lower mid-range, has a little bit more presence to it, but still not fuzzy. It's a real singing sound with a lot of sustain. Now we'll turn the gain all the way up. That's a thick, fat, singing sound, great for playing leads. Now let's move on to the Blues Driver. Once again, we'll start in the standard mode with our gain set to about, I've got it set to about 10 o'clock here, and the tone control is just about at 12 o'clock. Once again, here's our neutral sound. That's a very different sound from the Super Overdrive. It still has all that sustain and a nice grittiness to the tone, but it's not quite as compressed. It's a little bit more articulate, so it's a little different type of sound. The two really complement each other very well. Now we'll turn the gain on the Blues Driver all the way up. There's a lot of gain on tap there, but still not a fuzz sound to it. It sounds like an amplifier that's being overdriven, which has always been kind of a hallmark of the blues driver. It sounds like your amp, just with more gain feeding into it. Now we'll set the gain back to about 50% and we'll switch over to the custom mode. We're getting a thicker mid-range there, a little bit more gain maybe on tap, a little bit more sustain. It's a really rich sound. I really like this tone. It's great for playing leads. One other nice thing about this tone is that it's very touch responsive. The harder you pick, the more gain you're going to get out of it, just like with an amplifier. Now we'll turn the gain all the way up. There's tons of sustain there with a nice presence. It really cuts through, but it's not a shrieky, harsh tone. It's a warm, rich sound. Finally, we have the delay, the DM2W. Now, I own an original vintage DM3, which is the generation after the original DM2, and I have to tell you, playing with this, I think the DM2W really even eclipses that original vintage pedal. In the standard mode, we've got about 300 milliseconds of delay time, just like the original, and like the original, the repeat time knob actually works in reverse, so when it's all the way up, you're at minimum delay time, and when you turn it all the way down, you're at full delay time. Kind of different than the way any other delay works, but you get used to it very quickly. Now, when we switch over to the custom mode, we get around 600 milliseconds, so it doubles the delay time, and it also gives you a little cleaner tone as well. So let's listen to those two different modes. What I've got set up here is just a basic slapback delay, using about 300 milliseconds of delay time, just a single repeat. You can hear that the delay is actually kind of dark sounding, and that's a positive thing in this case, because what that allows you to do is set up that delay so it sits behind your playing. It really gets out of the way, no matter whether you're playing fast, you're playing slow. It's just adding a richness and an ambience behind that really doesn't get in the way of your actual notes. That's one of the great hallmarks about the delay, the DM2, and the DM2W recreates that perfectly. Now let's turn up the repeats, and we'll add a little bit more of the delay into our signal. Just as before, you can hear that that delay, even with multiple repeats, really sits behind what you're actually playing. The sound doesn't get cluttered, it doesn't get messy. It stays clean, but you've got that rich ambient tone behind you. Now I'll switch over to the custom mode. Here, once again, we've got about 600 milliseconds of delay time, so a much longer delay. In this mode, the delay is a little bit more open sounding. It's not quite as dark, but it still sits nicely behind your playing. It really enhances what you're doing without becoming real obvious as you're playing your lines and your chords and things. So it stays out of the way, but it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more natural. It gives you a real boost to what you're playing. Now let's listen to the DM2W when we feed some distortion into it, some overdrive. I'm going to turn on the blues driver so we can hear what it sounds like in custom mode with a nice long delay with some good repeats going on. With the distortion added in, you can hear that more open tone from the custom mode. Really lets the notes sing and speak through. They still don't get in the way, they're still sitting nicely behind what you're playing, but they really give you that soaring sound. Now there are 4 connections on the DM2W. There are 2 outputs. There's a direct output and then the regular output. The direct output sends the dry signal out of the pedal, so you could route that to one amplifier. Then the output sends the affected signal out. So if you want your delay sent to a second amplifier, you can do that using this pedal. Of course, we've got an input jack for your guitar signal. The final jack is the rate jack, and that accepts an expression pedal for control over the delay time. Here I've got a Roland DV5 plugged in, and as we move the pedal, we'll be changing the delay time inside the effect. Now it's interesting because just like the top panel knob works in reverse, all the way up is minimum delay, all the way down is full delay, the pedal works the same way. All the way back, the heel down position, is full on delay time, and all the way forward, or toe down position, is minimum delay time. So here's how that works. I've got the pedal all the way back. If we move it all the way forward, we get the minimum delay time. And of course we have all of the delay times in between as well. Now the other nice effect we can get out of this is if you move the delay pedal while the echoes are sounding, the delay time changes and the pitch actually changes as well. Finally, the DM2W will self-oscillate, so if you turn up the intensity control, you can get lots of interesting effects using that. I'm really excited about these 3 new pedals. With the Waza Craft line, the master engineers at BOSS have really put together some premium stomp boxes. The tone here is really great. Between the different modes that you have in all 3 pedals, you have a lot of versatility. Really, with the 3 of these, you could cover pretty much any gig. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.
Thank you.